In this video, I'm going to go over 13 tickers with some gaps to the upside and some gaps that take us to the downside. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is SOFI. We have a gap that takes us to 908, closes out at roughly 896. I will anticipate a bounce off of support when that happens. To the north side, this gap begins at 1110, closes out at $11.29. I bought in at $7.90 and I also bought in at $6. The next one is Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. We've got a gap that takes us back to the middle of the trend roughly at 34.40, closes out at 34.86. This gap already closed to the upside at 35.43, started to fall down at resistance. The next one is Williams Companies. We've got a gap that takes us out at resistance at 35.65, closes out at 35.80, and you know what happens at resistance. This gap closed to the south side at 34.66, and this one closed to the upside at roughly 34.89, ran up to resistance here at nearly 3 standard deviations and started to make its way down. The next one is Citigroup. We've got a gap that begins at roughly $50.10, closes out at $50.27, and this is very close to resistance. This gap closed to the south side at 49.37. Note the sell-off here at resistance. SLB. We've got a gap that takes us to the north side at resistance, beginning at 55.40, closes out at roughly 56.39. And we've got a gap to the south side at $49.80, closes out at roughly $49.22. And this will take us to support. Obviously, you want to flip this on to the different time frames because it will give you different also buy and sell signals. This gap closed to the upside at roughly 52.01. The next one is Johnson Controls International. I talked about this on Tuesday. The gap opened here but touched here and has not closed out, so this is back on my list. We have a gap that formed right here on Thursday, the end of Thursday, beginning of Friday. Takes us to 53.65 at the middle of the trend and support. Closes out at 54.03. You know what's going to happen here. Should we make it up to this next level? That begins at 55.25 at resistance, closes out at another level of resistance, 56.60, roughly. It's more like I should tweak that at 56.56. All right, and we are nearing support here where I anticipate a bounce. The next one, and then the RSI though, is turning down slightly. So we're gonna hit this line, maybe go down, possibly even to this area, and then hopefully make our way back up again. This is NDAQ, NASDAQ. We've got a gap to the upside at 55.67, closes out at 56.09 at resistance, and we have another gap down here. I'll just move it here, but normally when I mark this out for myself, when I see it, I'll just keep extending it out, and then I'll clean it up later. So this gap begins at roughly 52.41. And let's say 52.12. And this gap started on Tuesday, November 14th. And note this gap closed to the south side here at 54.70. This one closed out at 55.76. We were at resistance, and what happened? We fell down to support. The next one is General Mills. We're so close to closing this out that we will definitely do that on Monday. At least that's what I'm anticipating. We've got a gap that takes us to 65.95, closes out at 66.28, and this resistance level here is 67.48. Oh, on the 10th, I saw that the price target was $70 and it's been revised downward slightly at 69.75. Nearly 7% return from where we are. Support takes us down to 64.44. The next one is BABA. I am in this trade. We've got a gap that begins at roughly 75.17, closes out at roughly 76.70. There are actually 3 gaps to the upside. We probably won't get this high on Monday, but if we continue to go up, then the other gaps hopefully will fill. The next gap takes us to 76.78, closes out at 77.43 at resistance there. Another level of resistance at 77.69, and 78.46 is where I will anticipate it to close out. And if it closes up in this area, that is resistance. So if you are not investing and you're just day trading or doing short swings, get your money and get out. Now, to the downside, there's a gap that takes us to 73.65, closes out at 72.54. The 1-year price target is 123.98. Note this gap closed to the upside at roughly 74.83. This one closed to the upside at roughly 72.96. There were all kinds of gaps back here. And these are all done. Hopefully this stock is turning around, but short term, we will close this out. And then if we do, I will anticipate a bounce. But again, flip this on the different time frames to see any other gaps that may be open to the upside or to the downside. You can go long or go short. The next one is Oracle. I was tracking this on the 12th as well. We have not closed out, so it's back on my list. Now we've got a gap that takes us to 104.89, closes out at 114.81. We are not in this time frame, not in this channel. We are a ways away, but I wanted to point that out and track it for you. And back to the middle of the trend takes us to roughly 102.08 at support as well. Note the bounce at support, down here. Google is also on the list. We've got a gap that takes us to 135.26. I was tracking this on Sunday night on the 10th for the 11th. So I will remove that and I will remove that. So basically in this level will be resistance and a sell-off area as well. To the middle of the trend will take us to 131.57. Oh, there was a gap to the south side that I was tracking, and I haven't looked at it since. What you do is you keep extending this out until it touches, and that means the gap has closed out. And it did right there on Thursday the 14th. Opened up on the 7th. So 130.05 was the target price. We hit that, we went a little lower, and look at that, voila, back at support in this range and a bounce to the upside, and the cycle repeats itself. And definitely pay attention to the RSI, MACD, and any other indicators that you like to use. It all just helps you paint a better picture of where price will be going. So this is done. I will remove that. So that is Google. And note the sell-off here at resistance. I tracked this gap. Closed out to the upside at 131.74. All right, the next one is coin. Option R to reset, if you did not know. We've got a gap that takes us to 151.79. It begins there, closes out at roughly 152.96. And another level of resistance will take us to 159.93. Look at that. The last time I talked about this, price was at 109.25. This gap has not closed to the downside. This is why it's important to go on the larger time frames and check it out. We are not in that channel, not in that range. We are a long ways off, but if you believe we're going to crash and the market will go south, then we may eventually hit this area, but not next week, I don't think. And set your stop losses and get out too. Don't forget to do that to protect your money. This gap closed to the upside at 105.60. So when I talked about this price at 109.25, see if I can get there. Well, let's just say 119. To this level is a 41% return from the last time I talked about it. So congratulations if you made some money off of coin. And then this gap, as you can see, also touched and closed out. No longer in play. Clean that up. So it went down, so it will go up and fill. So it filled right here at roughly 139.90. And then there was this gap that took us to 146.69. All done with that as well. The last one I'm going to go over is CI, the Signal Group. I talked about this on the 12th as well. Noted a gap to the south side, and we started to go down, and then we did go up as well in both directions. So you can go short and long, just read the charts. So price was at 296.71. I talked about a gap that takes us to 294.40. This gap will eventually close at roughly I marked it out at 258 and then tweaked it. So let me mark this out again just to make sure here. Okay, here, let me just erase this. And this one will take us to roughly there, about 259.08, let's just say, give or take. And we are not in that channel, not in that zone just yet. So something to be aware of. And look at this. TradingView gets so wonky on me. It's crazy. It just dropped one of my indicators. So let me put that back. So there we go. If you know of any other sites that are good for charting, please let me know. I'm going to consider looking at other options besides TradingView. All right. This gap takes us to the north side at 296.90, closes out at 298.47. Note, there's a teeny tiny gap right here. I don't track those because when you play the linear regression, that will get taken out. But again, flip this over to the different time frames so you will also get different buy and sell signals and gaps that you may have missed. Now on this list, CI, JCI, and ORCL, Oracle, I carried it over from the 12th because those gaps have not closed out. Now that will do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. If there is a ticker that you would like me to go over, please let me know, and have a great trading week. I will revisit these tickers on Friday and see if we closed any of the gaps or any new gaps got created as this week goes by. I do also want to point out there are gaps on Microsoft, IDXX, Visa, SYX, and MDLZ. All right, that does it for me. Thank you for watching.